Welcome to everyone. Thank you all for coming. I'm David Gryn from Artprojx, and this is Dara Friedman, the artist we're featuring, whose film Dancer we showed on Wednesday. I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an overview of the project that we've done, and then really the reason is to hear Dara talk about the process of the film. And we're very privileged that there are several dancers who feature in her work.
Few. Not too many. Anyway.
They'll be coming. There's a few that we know are here.
Yeah.
And so I selected the films for Art Basel, Miami Beach, for art video, and we had a lot of films to look through, so it was a funny time I spent through the summer holidays. But there were these moments of magic in looking at these films, and those were many of the films I selected. And Dara's was one of the first films that I had only seen a draft of it, so it was very brief, but I knew immediately that it was something very powerful, magical. I just had a sense of it because I hadn't seen the whole thing. And it was, once I started looking into it and hearing a bit more about the film, it suddenly, I realized that it was very much about the fabric of the city, and it was very much about its place here.
Should we watch a clip?
Yeah, we could watch a clip.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
okay.
fine. I like being interrupted. It's good.
All
I was
right.
only going to talk about you, so it's fine.
No, it's good. Instead of talking about this, we'll watch like 10
This
minutes.
is how it starts.
And yeah, I was kind of going to see who's seen it and who hasn't, but we'll just go a little bit on it. Beatles. This is a low quality. Just wait. Just this next edit is really good. We'll get through that one. We had to wait for that.
Washington and 8.
Okay, I think we can pause it now. So that's just a little bit.
Okay, for one thing, I want all of you who weren't there to just imagine this was on a 7,000 square foot screen,
The
one
sound
block away.
was deep.
The sound was
Was
deep.
very deep.
And I was happy because the artist was happy.
I was extremely happy.
Her husband was happy, who was involved, and many of the dancers who were there were very happy. And their gallery was happy. And everyone sitting there was happy because it looked amazing. And this
Static.
it looks like this, but it looks so wonderful, huge. And that was what I was programming for, was having to think what works would work well on a 7,000 square foot screen.
I made it really specifically for that screen, so I was really glad that you could pick up on that. So I was just going to tell a little bit about making it. So it was funny. I think I've been wanting to make this film for a very, very long time. I didn't realize quite how long until this summer I was cleaning up and I found a notebook from 1989 in which there's a note that says, "Make dance theater piece with dancers." And that was it. And that's, whatever the math is, that's a long time ago. And but what does that mean, make a film with dancers? Okay, that's like an initial idea. And I wasn't sure, so I started by thinking, well, I have to meet dancers in order to make a film with them. And I kind of tried doing that for years, and it was sort of, I only knew a handful, and then they'd move away, and anyway. So then, about a year ago, we began the process in earnest, and said, okay, I'm going to do an open call with Craigslist. I'm going to call all the schools. I'm going to go to the dance schools. I'm going to put the word out, and I'm just going to try to meet dancers. And then I still was like, okay, make film with dancers. What does that mean? Okay, so the few that you were here, you came, we did the audition. I asked the Miami Art Museum to host the audition space because when you put an open call for dancers wanted, it normally means like erotic dancers. So I wanted to do it in the museum so that no one would be embarrassed to come. And then, so you meet somebody, and then I didn't really know about choreography, so I began this idea of choreography as like, well, I meet you, we sort of feel each other, and then the question that comes out of that is, so what can you and me do together? I'm not sure if that's grammar is correct, but anyway, what can we do? And the dancers will sort of follow this process. So it was just the question that I had to ask in terms of thinking about what choreography was. So it's a very sort of physical, visceral process. What can we do together? And then bit by bit, the movement came out of that, and then. So anyway, so now I had some like feelings, and I had this like collection of like brilliant people, and started placing them in the city. Obviously, I know the city really well. I've lived here about 20 years, and I insist on seeing it in a really blinkered way. So I thought, well, I'll set these movements in a way that I can see them, that they're seeable. I mean, that's the whole, I mean, you promote film, you screen film, and the important thing is in what way is it seeable? So this exercise of seeing, this event of seeing, so you have the individual shots that when you look at somebody, in what light can you really see them in their best light? So it's trying to find that best light in terms of, in so many senses of the word, even the best light in time of day or night, the proper side of the street, all of that. So then the film was shot. It was about 13 days of production. And then I'll be done. You can ask questions at any time. But then came the thing of how to construct it. And it's interesting. So it was shot. The film was shot on with a very old, wind-up Super 16 Bolex camera with 100-foot loads, so meaning that each crank only took 20 seconds of film. So the budget was limited, so each dancer had about 3 minutes of film shot on them, and no sound recorded on location, but not during filming, because in film the sight and hearing is separate. They're not all contained within the head in the camera.
Can I ask you, what were the choices of music that was that within the choreography they chose music they wanted to dance to, or was
It's a mixed bag. Some people brought their own music. Some people chose to dance to silence. Sometimes I suggested something, and sometimes I laid it in after. And I knew that I wanted the sound of the city to be the dance track, the soundtrack as well. So, and I wanted to have, what we did on location was record everyone's breathing, the dancer's breath. So I knew that in order to breathe life into it, we'd really have to breathe life into it, like that literally.
Because when I program films, I often hear them first, because I'm distracted at home with other things going on, so I'm playing a film and I'll hear it. So what I heard first was hearing your film, and it was already, it felt like how you're describing it. It was, for me, the idea of playing something during an art fair in another city is about making relevance to the city and, doing something that, and it just was so embedded in its roots. And, I had to visual. I'm looking at a little screen that big, and I'm having to think, what does a 7,000 square foot screen look like? Will this work on it? Because if it doesn't work, it's not great, and I don't want work to not be great for the artist's sake, and then anyone else's. And
some of the music is from the gallery, Gavin Brown's Enterprise. I guess Gavin started a label called Brown Sounds a few years ago, and I figured that, and they're friends who'd made music, and it turned out that it just fit and it worked, this record collection, and that was a really, really good connection, and this thing of being really open to finding connections in all directions to things. But yes, I also have a pretty big sound effects library, and I've always sort of thought like, well, you could just do a huge orchestration with just sound effects, which I've never done, but always thought about. But from that.
I also felt, because it was at the New World Centre, that it was about music, sound, and the things that actually take place there. And I had no idea that Dara had an envisaged mind that this was going to one day hopefully play there. So me selecting it for there was totally coincidental to Dara's wishes that it would one day be shown there.
Well,
so
they got sent out. You caught the wish.
I did catch the wish, yes.
Yeah,
and I'm very glad I caught it. And then we gave it its own slot because it felt that it couldn't have anything else around it, because I think it felt it needed itself. It was part of here. But often with art fairs, there's material that comes in from everywhere else, and they're very rarely about the fabric of what an art, the city is. It's often about these things that come from international galleries, and isn't it amazing how international we all are? But often the people who are the artists and the works that exist in a city often feel sort of slightly neglected. And this isn't the case because Dara and Mark together, both international rated and respected artists, but the work features 60 dancers that are all, I think, from Miami?
Yeah, 66. Yeah.
66.
Yeah.
I've been underestimating the number, but that's then 66 people who are part of this work, and that for me felt really wonderful. Their engagement with it, and seeing their faces the other day and speaking to them, they felt they were part of an artwork.
Yes, everything's the sum of its parts for sure, and no, it was a real. I'm just really, really thankful that everybody came out and did it, But more also, I didn't realize that, I guess you should know, dancers are just really good people. You're all really, really so nice. I mean, that seems kind of obvious, but it's not always. And it was so easy, clearly, to feel it with them. It was, it was very open.
More of a process question. What was then the logic of how you edited it? How did it take shape? Was it just it felt itself, or was there something else guiding you?
Well, there's a bunch of things. There's multiple connections. So there are poetic connections. This idea of poetic editing, like we just saw from Jean to Lauren hitting it with her arm. So these finding clues in the image that lead from one motion to another. Then there are sort of social emotional connections, knowing that friends, one dancer who's friends with another dancer, that they'll form a harmony, and you can see, sort of sit them next to each other. Then there's visual cues, there's social cues, there are sound cues. Like farther on in the piece, I was sort of really struggling with, we have Miss Miami Beach 2011 in it, and I wanted her to walk very strongly down Washington Avenue, and she was unrhythmic. And I didn't know, what do I do? I really wanted this strong rhythmic walk. I couldn't, but I know she needed music. And then I knew the music afterwards was sort of from Brian DeGraw, yeah, and had this sort of Carmen riff in it. And I thought, okay, it's got this Carmen riff. I'll bring Bizet to her. She can stomp to it. Yes, she could. But then she gets off beat, so then she has to disappear for a while until he can catch the beat again. So it's all like that. And I've told this story a few times, but I'll just tell it again because some of you haven't heard it. But what I learned about editing was that you can set up these tracks in the brain. It's like certain different types of thinking in terms of making connections. And if you start to, I don't know quite how to explain it, but I'll just give this example. When I had this sort of eureka moment, understanding what editing was, is that I was cleaning up one of my girls' puzzles, and it dropped on the floor, and so I sat down to put it together, to clean it, to clean it up again, and I could look at a piece, and then without looking where, the hand would go in the right place, because this would be after like a 5-hour session of editing. So I'd realized that when you start this kind of circuitry in the brain of puzzling things together, it's like you open a highway and then the cars will just flow without your thinking about it too much. It's like, if you build the highway, they will come. So like if you start to build this circuitry of making connections and being very open to the connectedness of things, then your body will take over and find them somehow for you, and you become this tool of something other that is other than your conscious self. And that's really cool. That's the good stuff. Yeah.
But in my looking at films,
yeah,
something that struck me very much with your work is that it feels very much itself. It doesn't feel like it's trying to make art, and it feels very much it exists in a, you make the work, you have a vision of what it's going to be, but it sort of evolves. But it's so often I'm sent works of art, and it's sometimes quite hard to work out whether I actually like them or not. Yours feels very much it just is, and that's something that I really respond to.
I'm a filmmaker, so I come from this tradition of structural filmmaking. So I'm how do you explain this? So I'm coming from this idea of thinking about film in a deconstructed way, and just that kernel of thought is the art process. So then no matter what you do with that, it's not like, oh, I'm making art and that stinks. It's we're making poetic connections in the world, and it happens to have moving image, but like that. So yeah, and I think very much about, it was really exciting for me to, I know this sounds corny, but find my language, which happened to be this thing of sound and image. It's just, I'm just really, really comfortable with that. I can't paint, unfortunately.
You do something wonderful.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know if there are any of the dancers visible.
Hey,
that they're here.
Hi, guys.
You were all wonderful. I just sort of wanted to put out a question to you of what the process was like. It might be hard to hear you, but is anyone willing to say? what it was like working with Dara on the project? Or what?
You're not forced to. Yeah, okay, Jen, go on.
There's a
yeah,
mic.
yeah, sure. Hey, beauty.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, testing. I'm Jennifer. I think Dara had already in her mind what she wanted, because what she had asked me to do for my audition was exactly what we ended up performing, which was me kind of lounging on a buoy and kind of just walking the streets of Miami Beach and then turning off to a corner. And that's what she got. But it's about freeing yourself as a dancer, which is not always easy. So I think in her editing, she captured that 3 seconds of when I was most free and in the moment. Because we have a lot of body control, and so it's not easy to just let it go and make it look natural all the time. You know, you're always controlling it. So I think
that's true. I did come with some idea. I did have a bit of an agenda with you. That's true. And that one of the dance moves that I wanted to do, that I've been sort of, I call it dance moves, was just walking arm in arm with somebody, and what it feels like to put your arm over somebody, the sort of the stink of your armpit and all that, and also to be under the arm of somebody. And that to me was a dance move, this thing that happens here. So I came with I did have a small bag of tricks that I wanted to sort of go through. And so we were talking about this. The one shot that I knew that would work and that I had used in a piece early on was a trucking shot. Like, I knew for me that a dance move was seeing somebody walk down the street and having the camera truck with them, so that in a way you have this not moving and moving sensation, that you're always with somebody and yet you're always progressing. And I knew that was a good step. That was like the foundation, like plie, you know, like, okay, we can truck, you know, position one. And then I knew too, position two, and I learned it with you actually, was that if I could keep your spread, because the film frame is horizontal, right? And we're vertical, so it's a problem. To keep things in frame, and then with you, it was really nice to learn, and it sounds so simple, but if I could turn the camera with you, and essentially we became sort of dance partners, I could keep you in the frame, and it was very exciting, and you didn't feel sick, you just felt sort of, you know, it's something that the stage can't do. If I'm here on stage and I'm not filling the space, you can't all of a sudden go, bloop, okay, now you fill it. But obviously with the camera, I can do that. So then it became very clear to me that what we were actually doing was dancing together, and I wasn't just going to be a spectator. So we did this pas de deux. We could move together, and it became very much so. And I realized that was working, because when the camera wasn't moving, the shots would die. So, and even like with Wayne, with the yogi, which is quite still, I knew that we had to breathe with him in order for the shot to work. That it was this thing that the camera as the stage, as the frame, I very much sort of feel the frame, you know. The frame is horizon and it's verticals. So like we are the verticals, nature's the verticals, the trees, everything, gravity is the vertical. And then we have the open plane, which is the horizon, in which everything sort of sits and falls. And so that's our stage, that's our proscenium. And like, I know if you take this proscenium and look at it through the camera, it's fluid, and it's really fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like hearing you talk about it. It just makes it feel really creative and the moment. But no,
sorry, it took me a while to remember, but that's what we did. It was yeah, but I mean, like all, I don't know, no, how do you say this? I mean, all art making clearly is an extension of yourself. It's all a self-portrait. So these are all things clearly that I want to do and be, all of you. So, you know, I mean, it's what you do. So, so in making it, I sort of do it with you, but I'm also with you, you know, like that. Anyway.
And your relationship to dance, because you said you had none, but you do have a little relationship.
I totally get dance. Yes, I grew up dancing. You can't really tell, but whatever. No, I do. I don't understand music, but I really understand dance. My mother's sister was a prima ballerina, and I think very early on, like as a, you know, whatever. We're not going to have to talk about my childhood now, but I was taken into dress rehearsals of Rites of Spring in Düsseldorf as a 4 or 5-year-old, and we sat in the dark, and my world was rocked. So yeah, I understand dance. I know when it feels right. I know when it's forced, and I get it. Yeah.
And then you've got Pina Bausch history. There's some, wasn't she involved, or?
Yeah. Yeah, she. I mean, it is. You know, it's a bit of a loose connection.
Okay.
It's a little forced, but yeah, she was in the same class as my auntie and Wuppertal, and so I was always told about her growing up, and this was this different way of thinking about dance, and that it was that the movements grew out of your personal experiences.
I mean, I live in a house with a child who's a dancer.
Yeah.
My wife does it as exercise, and it's a happy place when there's dance. But that was sort of, the film was a happy place. The other night was a happy place, because there's something of
Really
exuberance,
happy.
of some real human experience that I'm a useless dancer, so I see other people dance and think, wow, they live.
It's this thing, we're talking about this, so Effie, I saw Effie do a dance. You know, Effie she's the tango dancer and the belly dancer, and she did a dance blindfolded. It's this really ancient Greek dance in which you just feel the music and feel the movement, and it's pure feeling, but it is this thing we were talking about, this thinking as movement. So it's, you know, this thing that you could separate. Oh, I'm a thinking person. I'm a feeling person. I do this. It's doing them simultaneously. It's thinking through feeling, thinking through movement. That these are that the feeling and the movement has so much sort of native intelligence in and of itself, and that's it.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
While we're here, has anyone else got any question? Got one there?
No. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Can I stand or can I sit?
No, it's okay.
I would like just a very. I'm Martha Jewell. I live in New York and also have lived in Miami. I would like a very kind of short definition from either of you or both of you. How do you distinguish what you would consider an art film, and what would be, say, I don't know, a little documentary on dancers in Miami? I mean, I have some definitions of my own, but I'd just like to hear what yours might be.
I think I would simply be very simple, that it's, Dara's an artist, she makes film.
Thanks. Yeah, that's it, yes.
And that's,
artists make art. That would be the...
And the best ones, it's such a simple definition, the best artists make the best films. And it can get very complicated, but I think that would just bamboozle, you know, I don't even understand the complicated parts of it, but if you're looking at something and you engage and you feel something, and it's working and it's quality, and you've got that experience that understands that, and even if you don't and it works for you, then it's a good quality art. Dara, I don't know all her work. I've got to know it more and more since I've met her, since I met the film, and I know she's one of the best artists I've ever met, and there aren't many of them. There are not millions of them out there. You might see lots of art in this art fair, but you haven't got millions of great artists out there.
I'm going to cry.
No. Well, no, she's true. There's, and I mean, okay, that's good. Okay, but she's excellent, and you just feel it. I mean, I have an experience of sensing what's good, but it's, you know what's good. You know what tastes nice. You know where it looks nice on people. You know what's good, and she's it.
Hey.
She's.
Yeah. Hey. That's cool.
Maybe that's a good moment to end, I think. Now I've got to cry because she's so good.
My hangover's catching up with me, sorry.
Okay, well, it was worth it. It was a great event. But I think we've wrapped that up because I don't want to make her cry anymore.
No, I cry easily.
But I do want to say there is some more screenings tonight that are wonderful. They're not including Dara, so I can't, sell her to you. But I can, that her gallery, Gavin Brown, is straight over that way, and you can go and tell them how brilliant she was talking and how her clips look great. And if you want to know more about the work, they have information about the work there. And also there's a show of it on in New York right now at Gavin Brown Enterprise. And I don't work for them, but I now feel very fond of them. And I felt more fond, and I know that from my work. When I've worked with galleries and artists, it's when I've really responded well to the work.
I can make a plug too. And if you're from Miami and you missed it, we'll be showing it at the Miami Art Museum starting February 16th. So you can go, and it'll run for like a month or more. So
isn't there a fundraiser too that you're showing it or not? Was that?
Oh yes, but but it's not open. That's tonight. The dancers are invited to at the Miami Art Museum cocktail tomorrow night, Saturday. But
So thank you all for being here, and enjoy the rest of the fair, and do ask us any questions afterwards if you want to.
Thank you.